Hey, welcome back to the Sound Mind Collective. My name is Heather Hutchison, and this is a video that I'm going to put into a playlist because I'm going to create a series that's going to explain and help give some information for my fellow white folk about what kinds of things you can do right now. I know there are a lot of us who are wanting to be involved in this new push of the civil rights movement and don't always know what's appropriate to do or to say. We are coming into this at a disadvantage because a lot of us do not have the knowledge and the history that we should have. And so we're playing a lot of catch up here. And there definitely are some rules of engagement in this process. And I know there are a lot of you out there who have a heart to do the right thing, and you don't want to cause harm or offend anyone with what you say or do or don't say or don't do. So this is going to be just a kind of shorter videos in a series of things that you should think about and things that you can do, and just give you kind of a starting place to jump off from. So let's jump in today. So today I wanted to start with a personal story, and it's an experience that I had a few years ago that has been bouncing around my head for several years, but in light of what we're going through right now, it just feels really pertinent to kind of help bring this all together and explain something, get a point across that I want to get across. So a lot of you have no idea that I have 4 children, but I do. And my oldest child is a son, and he is now 18. His name is Samuel, and he has struggled valiantly and fought against issues with mental illness since he was a toddler. And we had a lot of really, really hard years. He's doing really well now. And part of that is because he was in a residential treatment facility for about 9 months a few years back, where he lived away from us. He lived at the facility where the doctors and the therapists and educators were all in one place and did a comprehensive treatment plan with him, and he really worked hard and has done well since then. But while he was gone, he lived about 2.5 hours away from our home, and I would go at least once a week for therapy with him, and sometimes I would stay after for visitation, and other times I would go back additionally during that week. And so there was a lot of time for me to think in the car. There was a lot of really deep therapy that was hard but necessary. And there's one particular session that I keep thinking about that I wanted to share with you. So this therapy session that I'm speaking about today started off like any other session we had done before. He and I were sitting in the therapist's room on a love seat, and he was sitting next to me right here, and his counselor was sitting kind of right here in her overstuffed chair. And we had gone through all of the parts of the appointment where she was having him explain what they had done since the week before, how he had been feeling during the weeks, any kind of new things that he had realized about himself, all that good stuff. And then we were heading towards the end of the session, and it hadn't been a particularly difficult session this time. But Miss Donna asked me very pointedly if I knew that my emotional response or my behavior towards Samuel through the years had come across to him as resentment. That sucked. I sat staring straight ahead. She had a big bookshelf full of, all sorts of books about mental health, and the titles were just swimming in front of me because I was trying desperately not to cry. I knew that if I cried, it was going to take away from that moment, which felt like a really powerful, sacred moment, and I didn't want to be a distraction. And so I breathed deeply and tried to still my body by staring straight ahead. And a million thoughts were going through my head. I wanted to jump up and face him and let him know, yeah, I've had resentment, but it had nothing to do with you as a person. I was resentful towards, the mental illness that you have, and that it has caused you so much trouble, and that it has impacted the dynamics of our family so much, and that it has caused so much chaos, and that it prevented you from doing this, or that it caused this to happen, or that I responded poorly. All of those things are things that I'm resentful towards, but it's not you as a person. But I knew that was not going to get us where I wanted to go. It would make me feel better in that moment, but it was not going to head us towards healing. So I took a deep breath and I didn't face either of them. And I kept my hands firmly in my lap. A few tears slipped down my face, but I wouldn't move to wipe them away because I just didn't want to just disturb the energy. And I just nodded and I quietly said yes. And so she reiterated and she said, so you are aware that Samuel has perceived your feelings towards him as resentment. And I nodded again and I said, yes, I am. And I tell you, it was really hard. It took a lot of self-control for me not to qualify my emotions or explain that that wasn't my intention to hurt him. But I felt him next to me. His whole body relaxed. This huge exhale came out of him. And Donna kind of sat with it. We sat with those, my words kind of hanging in the air for a few minutes. And then we finished the session and there was no angels that came down to sing. There was no big climactic moment of, clapping and my son saying, thank you, I needed that. But I stood up and faced him and he grabbed me in a hug. I'm tall, but he's taller and bigger than me. And he just said, I love you, Mom, and I'll see you next week. And he turned to go back to the unit and I followed Miss Donna out through the locked doors to my truck where I cried really hard. And what I realized as I think about it in terms of what I'm seeing in social media and what I'm seeing in person in the conversations between Black people and white people is that there is incredible power in just acknowledging that we have inflicted hurt and pain without qualifying it with what our intention was. That just by me letting him know, I know this is how you felt. That's it. No more words. That for him was incredibly powerful and freeing and healing. I didn't use the word but. I hate that word. I absolutely cannot stand that word, especially right now, because so many of us white people, I'm looking at you and I want you to think if you do this yourself, you comment on something, you think you're being, standing up for Black people, and you add that but. And as soon as you insert that but into your sentence, everything that you've said before it becomes void. It's null and void, and everything that comes after it is really how you really feel. And so if you've said, I believe that George Floyd did not deserve to die, but we no longer pay attention to that first part of your sentence. The but is kind of like a megaphone. It's like, this is what I really mean coming up right now. Pay close attention because these are my real feelings. I just tacked that on the beginning to make myself feel better and look better. It's not okay. So as you respond to people on social media and also in person, I really want to challenge you that when something feels uncomfortable, when you feel as though someone is asking you to acknowledge their hurt and their pain and their wounding, for you to take a deep breath, take a moment. Don't cry in that moment if at all possible, because again, it's not about us, right? Cry later in your truck like I did. But if you can just say, yes, I see that. You can say, I see that now, or I didn't realize that before. I see it now. Anything like that. And don't insert that big but in there. You will be amazed at the grace that pours back from people who are living in Black skin, who already know that this is their reality, that this is what they've experienced. They want you to hear that this is what they've experienced. Because if you can hear it, if you can accept it, if you can say, wow, yes, I see that. Yes, I did that. Without any qualifying words, man, I'm telling you, it is a bridge to healing. It is. And you can be uncomfortable for a minute. You really can. I promise you, you're not going to die. Nothing bad is going to happen. You can own it. You don't have to qualify your intentions or try to explain what, so-and-so meant when they did this or what they said. Just let them say, I was hurt. And you say, yes, I see that. And watch some of the healing happen. So my goal to you, whoops daisies, My goal to you right now is in your interaction online and in person to really be aware of how you speak and the words that you speak, and try not to use the word but. That's it. That's the challenge. Feel free to come back in the comments and let me know any experience you may have had where you didn't use the word but, or where you did and it went wrong, or anything like that. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I would love for you to subscribe and stay tuned, because there are going to be more What Can I Do Next coming up. Thanks, and we'll see you soon. Bye.